Hi, welcome to Kit Plus TV. Now, today we're doing something slightly different, a slightly longer show where we're taking an in-depth look at the Sony FX6 and particularly how it's been received so far.
But we're not asking the questions today. Let's go over to Daniel Listh from Sony, who is joined by two people on the front line dealing with customers. Carl from ProAV and Jake from CVP.
Okay, guys. Thanks for doing this. I mean, it's an online session suddenly. Obviously, in normal terms, if we didn't have a pandemic around us, we would be meeting at some kind of exhibition, maybe the BSE Expo in London that should have happened normally in the beginning of February or the end of January, which is not too long ago, according to this recording. So, I mean, we would probably just have fist bumped and actually talk about what's going on in the market, but yeah, we can't really do that. So I appreciate that we have this possibility instead. I mean, how are things going at the moment?
Busy, very busy. I'm sure Jake is absolutely the same. You guys keep releasing new cameras.
We do. I mean, this is end of February now, and the FX6 and FX3 is, I think, has been announced. So the FX6 is on the market, and the FX3 has just been announced. So it's there's a lot of activity on social media right now these days. Have you actually had any chance to see it yet? Because I know, being based in Denmark, we haven't had any opportunity to get it in Denmark yet. But you based in UK, you might be more lucky than me.
I've had a morning. How long have you had, Jake?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of hours in Sony's Pinewood space, just to get our first hands on with it, and we did like a couple of tests. But obviously, it's the sensor and the chipsets are so identical to the A7S III. It's pretty much just the performance you expect from that. So yeah.
Yeah, there's not really that much of a surprise. I mean, if we want to look at something that's hardware-wise different from an FX3 or an Alpha 7S, we need to look at the FX6 or FX9 or Venice camera. But it's interesting to see that we now have a portfolio that are out-of-the-box video-based cameras, from a tiny camera all the way up to a giant cinema camera. So it's what's your feeling about that as an approach to your clients? Is this something that makes sense, or is there something maybe even missing in your point of view? I mean, there's so many cameras. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have kind of, kept everyone waiting so long for the A7S III. And then since you've brought that out, you've kind of gone, right, you wanted it, so we're going to give it to you. And now you've given people all these options now to have this fantastic sensor in 3 different body types, essentially. So it's, I was joking with another technical consultant earlier saying, the only thing that we're missing now is essentially a Venice extension block with this sensor in it. And that would kind of really round up the line of you guys getting this sensor in as much as possible. So yeah, now with the FX3, you've got the option to, have something that's slightly different to the A7S III that is more tailored towards video. And then obviously if you want, the electronic ND and, the slightly different form factor and the more professional IO, then you've got the FX6 there, which still definitely has its place in the market 100%.
Yeah, I must say I don't think it was that well for people who bought or pre-ordered the FX6 and now seeing the FX3, it didn't really seem like people were threatened by it. Do you have any similar thoughts about that? How about Carl?
We haven't any customers that had ordered the FX6 come back and go, well, hang on, this looks like the thing I should have held out for. I think the FX6 has some very obvious advantages over this. I mean, it's got the more established broadcast codecs. It's got the built-in ND, is probably by far the biggest thing there. And so, yes, the image quality will be similar, but the ergonomics and the way that you get to that final image is very, very different on that camera. I think the FX3 is a camera that people need to actually physically hold. It's sort of a shame that it's been introduced during COVID in some ways, because I think it is really a camera that customers need to physically pick up, be it at a trade show or in a dealer's showroom, and try it out. Because, I mean, holding an A7S in one hand and then that in the other hand, you really do get a sense of of why you might pick one or the other, depending on the sort of work you do. But it really is going to be personal preference. It's going to be so interesting to see which customers end up choosing which model.
Yes. No, we've had some internal dialogues with some key customers, like broadcasters who we have a strong relationship with over time, who are using our cameras, and getting that feedback all the way back to Japan. And it's been some interesting dialogues, because some of them have already invested in the in the Alpha 7S, and if they already have and use these cameras, so when they see the FX3, it's different reactions really. There's pros and there's cons, but there are some that definitely would have ordered differently had they known that. That's for sure, because it is a out of the box, it's a video camera compared to the Alpha 7, which is a stills. But again, it's all about, as you say, the preferred option there.
And which features to people? I mean, for me, I love the EVF. So the A7S has that big jump above all the other cameras really there because of the EVF. And so I think that very much sways me as personally towards it. But then we speak to so many customers that just don't ever use it, and so would never really be that bothered by something like the FX3 that doesn't have it.
Yeah, it's been interesting seeing the feedback online. As we've both put out our videos, and I'm sure Carl's been looking at the Facebook groups and seeing people's reaction as well. And it is incredibly mixed. And like you say, I think the more positive side of it is people who own FX6s and FX9s and Venices already looking to buy an accompanying camera to that, who aren't strictly, like Carl says, some people love the EVF, some people never use it. And I feel like those people probably use it a bit less. And that's why they're more kind of like excited by the FX3. But again, if you're an A7S III owner, this camera doesn't, it's not going to make you go, damn, wish I just waited a little bit longer. Now with this Cinetone being released today as well, there's only a few things really separating it that, like Carl says, the EVF really is probably the most kind of differentiating thing between it. So yeah, it comes down to whether people want that or not.
Yeah,
and obviously how they're going to do audio.
Obviously, I mean, speaking of audio, that's a thing that people have been commenting to me as a Sony employee that stands at a booth and receives so much feedback. So many people have been talking about the MI shoe, Alpha 7S's having MI shoe, and the capability of doing that with one of the issues, or one of the worries is the robustness. I mean, obviously the MI shoe is not really designed for travel. Where you have everything connected, you need to disassemble them before you put them back in your backpack and start flying to a different destination. Where suddenly that's no longer an issue with the FX3. So that's kind of interesting. Although if you need XLRs and you need the MI shoe, you need to go again up to something larger. It is the FX9 or the FX6 that can do that. So it's. Is this a audio issue, or audio? How big is audio for your clients? Is that something it's
massive?
It's massive. Obviously, it needs to work. Otherwise, this conversation would be pretty redundant, as we tested in the early beginning.
I would say Sony is one of the better manufacturers out there for audio across their products, simply because that MI issue gives you so many possibilities for things you can do, whether that's absolutely scaled right back and just, I forget the name of it now, but your little on-camera microphone that just goes straight into an MI shoe with no cables, or the XLR adapter, or the bigger cameras with XLRs built in, plus the MI shoes to add extra ports if you need them. You give people so many options that I think that's where these discussions about, because historically, the smaller cameras wouldn't have had XLRs and the bigger cameras do. And that's your turning point as to when you need to go up to the bigger cameras. But now you give it to everyone. And so these sorts of conversations are always going to happen. I think your point on robustness is a really interesting one, because the FX3, the K3M on an A7S3, you wouldn't pick the camera up by that. And as you say, over time, it can wear it down. Whereas the FX3 with its two screw-ons things is so robust and so easy to just pick the camera up and wave it about by that handle absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see if you guys end up releasing any more accessories for the FX3 using that that connector, because I feel like you guys have got so much possibility through that MI shoe. It'd be so cool to see some other accessories for it. And yeah, like I like the little touch of the handle with the fact that the screws are captive as well. It's a very, very small thing, but a massive thing for people who actually do professional work. Because I dread to think if they weren't captive, how many people would lose those just pulling it out of the bag. It'd be insane.
On the MI shoe front is a smaller K3M. I mean, imagine a smaller K3M that maybe works off 3.5mm jacks rather than XLRs, or just has one XLR on it, however you want to do it to pare it back. But something for the FX6 for gimbal work, or something along those lines would be great.
But there's a lot of great things. Maybe we'll be able to make a viewfinder for the FX3 via MI shoe. Who knows?
What would be cool is like as a slightly redesigned top handle for the FX3. So one maybe without even a K3M on it, more designed for like run and gun stuff without that audio module that has the same like dial and record button and everything that the FX6 top handle has. Because that's one thing that I absolutely love about the FX6 is that top handle, and the fact that you guys added that. I think you added the extra joystick onto it, and it just makes navigating it while you're shooting low so much easier.
Yeah, I mean the feedback from the FS5 was that so many people were using this very tiny camera for via holding the top handle, but were missing certain features. So getting access to the joystick, assign buttons, having a dedicated wheel, as you say, programmable, is again based on so many people's requests and how they use the cameras differently compared to the camera's design. So it's not something you can do on a Venice camera, because it's simply too big, too heavy to do something like that. So it's the smaller cameras make it possible to do something more unique that you couldn't do with other cameras. So it's not always just going for the most expensive camera that will be the best for that particular shot. It's all about choosing the right tool for the project. So it's interesting. But I guess do you see that segment? What kind of users buy an FX6 nowadays for you? Is it only corporate, or is it freelancers? Who goes for this camera?
It's so insanely vast. Like the amount of crossover in the industry now for these smaller cameras is insane. So you could have anyone from indie filmmaker, indie cinema kind of shooters, all the way to corporate and everything in between, freelance, everything could want to look at this or any of the other kind of sub $8,000 cameras. They all cross over so much now. I don't think it's really limited by anything anymore.
Absolutely.
No.
I think the FX6 is one of the best cameras on the market right now for people that need to cross over into all sorts of different kinds of work. And I think that's where we see it going most commonly, is to customers that aren't really pinned down into one's particular area. If you need to be able to pick up your tool and fulfill whatever any client chucks at you that particular day, whether that be a narrative project or a glossy commercial for someone's webpage, or whether it's a simple corporate film, or it doesn't really matter what it is. The FX6 can sort of do it all in many ways.
Is then, that being said, do you see then people go, do you need an arsenal of lenses to be able to be so dynamic as the camera is? Because do you actually have to, or can you stay within a certain amount? It's an interchangeable lens camera. So is that something you see being different based on segments, that people buy lenses based on what they do? Or is it not as black and white?
A very, very interesting one. I'm just pulling up on my computer next to me. I put a little question out on our YouTube channel the other day, just sort of saying, E-mount users, what lenses do you use? Which ones, do you use autofocus, and which lenses do you use? And there is such a wide variety of people. Lots of people using stills lenses, the 24 to 70s of the world, whether that be yours or Sigma's or whoever. Lots and lots of people using primes. I've seen lots of people talking about Batis lenses from Zeiss, or your G Master primes, that sort of thing, or Sigma Art lenses like this one here were very, very popular. What I haven't seen a huge amount of, actually, I thought I would see more, is your power zoom, the 28 to 135 full frame servo lens. Because we have sold quite a lot of those, but I wonder whether they're going more to FX9 customers than to FX6 customers. But it is a beautiful lens to pair with the FX6.
Yeah, it's a really nice general purpose zoom.
It is, yeah. It was, going back in history, it was a zoom lens that was announced with the FS7, although it's a lens that is full frame, and the camera is the FS7 is a Super 35. So unfortunately the camera didn't do the lens justice. It's not until we put it on a full frame camera that you can really see the image quality of the optics within this 28 to 135. So it's gotten a new life, I'd say.
I think that might be wise. I think there is still a perception out there amongst some customers that it's just a bit of an old, slightly boring lens. It was a kit lens at one point, wasn't it? I vaguely remember that lens, but actually, it, like you say, it has been given a whole new lease of life with these new cameras with full frame sensors and autofocus and the image quality that they've got. Because optically, it's a very good lens. It's not cinema zoom level, but for a servo all-purpose lens, it does a really good job optically.
I think the nice thing now about the modern autofocus systems that Sony cameras have now is you have the best of both. You have the option to buy the autofocus lenses and go straight to E-mount, and therefore you're not having to worry about having to adapt anything. And you guys have such a huge range of lenses now, across your own and obviously third parties that make it for E-mount. There's so many options available for it now. Lens choice is incredibly subjective. So some people may prefer one image quality over the other. You have so many options. And then obviously with the short flange, the fact you can adapt, again, a huge range of lenses onto it, which is what obviously most people did with original A7Ss and FS5s and FS7s. I think that happened more then purely because the autofocus system wasn't anywhere near as good as what it is now. Whereas now it's so mature, there's a reason to look down the native route. I think from my perspective, I think the more people have picked up autofocus lenses more recently over the traditional Metabones and EF stills glass, which was the go-to recommendation and the go-to for most people with the older cameras.
I think we're seeing a bit of a turning point now where native glass for E-mount doesn't have to just mean Sony's one either, because like you say, Sony make a huge range of very, very good lenses, both primes and zooms. But you do get loads of other brands. We've got the Zeiss Batis one here, and then these little Sigma contemporaries, which I've just been playing with over the last week or so, which are really nice, tiny little lenses. They're offering things which Zeiss don't have in their, Sony don't have in their lineup. But they autofocus just as well as native Sony lenses. So there really is such a wide range of good lenses for E-mount in autofocus right now.
And well, just one thing that I come to think about with that 28 to 135, it is good on the on the FS7 and the FX9 because those are shoulder-based cameras. And do you sell FX6 as a shoulder-based camera? Is that something you go to or see customs do for?
It can work, but I would say it's not the most asked for configuration, but it's definitely possible with the right kit surrounding it.
If a customer is talking about the FX6 and says they work most of the time on their shoulder, we do normally try and sort of steer them more towards the FX9 just because it is a camera, both ergonomically once it's on a shoulder, not even just bare on your shoulder, even once it's in a rig and everything, it just works much better as a shoulder mounted camera with a viewfinder down there for your eye. But that being said, like I said earlier, the FX6 is most popular with people that just need to do a different thing every day. And, you know, it can work as a little cradled camera. It works very well on a tripod, and it can work on your shoulder. So, you know, it does tick all those boxes. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. But the 28 to 135 is if I remember correctly, it's close to 1 kilo. So it's almost I think it's over 100 grams or maybe 200 grams more heavier than FX6. So having a front heavy camera is not maybe something that people desire. So but it does benefit with the power zoom, definitely.
Got to hear
for the most part, if
1.2 kilos.
1.2. So yeah, if people are putting the FX6 on the shoulder anyway, more often than not, you know, people are going to be recommending V-lock plates on the back just to counterweight it, so you have got that center of gravity instead of it being front heavy. So I don't think it'd be too much an issue. Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
No. So ideally, it's that's you need to choose the camera that is the tool for how you want to use it. So if you want a shoulder-based camera, then go for the ones that come as a shoulder case camera out of the box. Yeah, that makes it. Luckily, it proves the point that what you're saying is also what we were looking at when we started developing the cameras. So that it goes to. It's nice to see what we try to do is it hits the spot. It's correct. So, but trying to go back to one of the questions I asked before? I mean, is there anything missing now that is there something where we completely missed a design? Is there something that you've really missed either in the current lineup, or do you miss something? Is there a camera missing? In terms of, if you look at the cinema line,
because you need to announce more cameras right now.
I mean, obviously, it's good to see people's reactions of what we have on the market, because if they have any kind of criticisms, it could go back to the developing plan. We're not able to make a camera within a month. It takes a long year of planning. So, I mean, if we have an idea for a camera today, it won't hit the market until a couple of years from now. So it's interesting to see what people are reacting to here and now.
So one thing I mentioned, I did a video on the Alpha 1, which I think Carl did as well. I'd love to see that sensor inside of it, like either a Venice or maybe like an FX9 Mark II, because it as a sensor, it's insane what you guys did with it. So I'd love to see, like, with some proper heat management, some bigger chipsets, like what you could do to really draw as much power out of that sensor as possible, because it's even in the insane.
When I saw the A1 footage for the first time, and particularly once you go up to not crazy high ISO, it's not A7S levels of 500,000 and all that sort of crazy stuff, but once you get up past sort of 6,400, I was amazed at how good the A1 looked. And just at normal ISOs as well, the clean image and the low noise floor that comes from that 8K downsampling, even though it is effectively quite a compressed codec, that sensor is a really good sensor, really good. Yeah,
no, that's good feedback. That's let's see if we can if we make something like that happen. It's that's interesting. I mean, the good thing about the Alpha 1 is it's an RS sensor. So we are nerding here, but the other cameras like the FX9, FX6, these are the Exmor R sensors. It's not the it's only the Venice camera and the Alpha 9 and the Alpha 1 that has the RS sensor, which is giving you that faster readout time, which is eliminating the jello effect. So if you're using really fast light lasers and such, you would be able to recreate some kind of shutter speed, rolling shutter effects, but it's very difficult to determine that you don't have a global shutter because you're using such a fast speeder with the RS. So it's definitely the RS is the top of the line. So yeah, that would fit really good in a cinema line camera. That makes sense.
100%.
Rather see it in a FX9 style camera or a Venice style camera?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
don't know which one would be better. This is the thing.
don't know.
I think both could benefit from it, but in their own ways. I'd probably say Venice personally.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say a sort of smaller Venice sort of cinematic style rather than broadcast style. I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Maybe that's a
Okay.
block for the Venice. There you go. So you make an A7S3 block,
Yeah.
and boom.
So therefore you keep the tiny house, so you can put it anywhere in a car, in a plane, and you can continue, but with XOCN and put in some ND filters. That would be nice.
Cool. That 8K resolution at XOCN. Well, presumably XOCN can't handle 8K, I'd imagine, but how good would that be?
Insane.
Well, I think. Well, no. Then, if we need to do that, then we need to do something with the card speed. It's the card XOCN itself. The processing, it can actually do that kind of resolution. It's the cards that is the current limitation. Even though they are very expensive, it's an expensive card series if you go for the AXS ones. But we need to look at some new ones if we are to support 8K XOCN. So it should be possible. Yeah. Okay, so looking into some of the cameras again for FX9, FX6, the very little things you've seen with the FX3 so far. Image quality wise, are we there? I mean, are we there yet? Is it good enough for people's expectations? I mean, everybody has a comment on YouTube about something. Is image quality one thing that you would say is that we're lacking here?
Certainly not lacking. I mean, the A7S3 and the sensor that brought with it, that is now in the FX6 and the FX3, is fantastic quality for. I mean, it's so much better than in terms of video than anything we've seen from you in small cameras like this to date. I mean, in every aspect, the sharpness, the detail, the dynamic range, the color, the low light, all of it is just a significant, not even a slight step up, a significant step up. I guess the only question mark is where that leaves the FX9, which has very, very good image quality. And in some aspects, it's better. But in most aspects, it's very close. And in some aspects, it's worse. While it is the flagship one in this, well, it's not flagship. The Venice is the flagship, but you know what I mean. So I guess that's my only question mark from image quality in the lineup. What do you think, Jake?
I think the color science is probably the biggest thing that's improved on these newer generation cameras. I think that was something you guys got quite a lot of flack for with with the old Alpha series cameras and FS cameras. And I love the look of the F55 like back in the day. It was still such a nice camera. But it's really nice to see you guys taking on board the criticism of the color science, and you guys have done such a good job of correcting these issues now. And you are getting, you're very close to straight out the camera, really nice straight out the camera imagery like Canon can do very well as well. So while you've got the flexibility of your S-Log, you've also now S-Cinetone has introduced this really fast acquisition look that I don't think you guys really had before. So having that now across all the cameras, especially with the A7S getting it today as well, now means that you've got this incredible lineup of cameras with really stellar dynamic range, great color, like all the things that Carl just said, and then being able to literally just quickly shoot with all of them now and get an image straight out of the box it's really nice. And you guys have done a great job of completing the lineup now with so many options we want to choose from. No matter what type of work they do or how they do it, there's a tool in that box now.
Okay, no, good. One thing that I thought about when you were talking about some of the specs, autofocus is one thing. The autofocus in a video camera has long been desired in FS5s and FS7s, and I mean once we could announce that was possible in the FX9, for example, I went, yes, finally we can say it, we can do it. But what's the, do you feel that professional videographers accepts this. It's a difficult topic. So many I've spoken to has said no, autofocus, no. But I mean, now after the FX9 has been there for about a year now, what's your take on it? Is it acceptable to be a professional videographer and use autofocus?
Yes, 100%. And I think it's
100%.
more of it's more of how people are used to shooting. People who've worked in the industry for years without autofocus, they're comfortable with what they're doing. So, ask them to transition over into these new systems, especially in the past where they may have been burnt with systems not working as well as they do now. It's just about showing them, and this is what what we both do in terms of showing people at trade shows and in showrooms and stuff like that is that these tools are actually really, really, really good now. And even if you're used to manual focusing, having the ability to sling the FX6 on a gimbal and use your autofocus and then take it off and then manual focus, it's having the flexibility to do both now is invaluable for people. And it's just about getting the cameras in people's hands and showing them how great the systems are now.
I think we absolutely are now at that turning point where we've gone from some professionals embracing it, some professionals being nervous of it or dismissive of it and saying, no, a true professional doesn't use autofocus. I think we now hit the turning point where the vast majority of professionals may not be welcoming of it or embracing of it, but will use it. And there is certainly probably about half the people I speak to very regularly that do fully embrace it and use it for the vast majority of their work. I think it is people often think about it when they first get used to using a camera with autofocus as just an easy option, as just whack it on and forget about it. And yes, it can be that for people who aren't experienced with focusing. But if you are experienced with focusing, if you've been a professional operator for a long time, it actually gives you more control, not less control, because you don't have to use it all the time. And there are lots of different autofocus modes. So the best people at using autofocus aren't just putting it on and forgetting about it. They're adjusting the settings depending on the lens that they've got and what they know works and what they know doesn't. They're choosing the right focus modes for the situation that they're in, or just choosing to turn it off and use manual focus for the situation that they're in. It's a extra tool in our tool set. It's not necessarily a fix it all. Just whack it onto auto and shoot around if you don't want it to be, because it can be that too. But it definitely works best when it's not that and when it's done in a controlled manner.
No, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Something I just wanted to hear if you guys have any thoughts about, and we're going a little bit. We are going quite off topic here, but I apologize for that. Experia Pro. A phone with 5G capabilities, 4K display, internal batteries, and an HDMI input. What do you think about that? I mean, is that something that's? I mean, it's not inexpensive.
I've never used one, and so I'd love to try it out. I think the concept is a good one. I think having an HDMI. Just that as an HDMI in, so that you can plug it into whatever situation you might be in or whatever camera you're using, I think is a great thing. I mean, the displays in our phones have been very good for a long time now. It's nice to be able to use one as a camera monitor. I think a phone is never going to be a true professional tool. It's always going to be good at some things, but at the same time, if you're working and you're trying to focus on something, your phone is not necessarily what you want attached to the top of the camera. And so it's going to be interesting to see the professional uses where it will really excel and ones where it might actually be a bit distracting compared to just having a normal camera monitor, for example. But I'm very curious. I want to try one.
Yeah, I haven't tried one either, but I think the way you could almost look at it is almost like a smart monitor. So less of a phone. Don't hand the number out to anyone, but think about a monitor that has that LTE connection and the possibility of maybe even like using it as for dailies and for rushes, like having the ability to have that monitor in the background kind of churning out, H.264 rushes into the cloud, that kind of workflow could be really interesting, and could really strip down what kit you need instead of having to use a Teradek, for example, to do that. Having like an all-in-one Sony package with a phone and then being able to do that could be really cool.
No, that's it's an interesting point. And the only thing I know about the Experia Pro, you mentioned that you'd like to try one, and it's taken some time to actually confirm that it would be coming to Europe, and it is coming to Europe in May. So it's simply not as easy to target Europe, because we have so many countries and so many laws and different ways of rolling out devices that support 5G. But I'm happy to see that it is something that's coming to Europe and not restricted to only be an American and Japanese product, but also an American and a European one. So as soon as we can get our hands on one, we'll make sure we can have them available so you can have a look at it in your shops. No, definitely.
Yes, please. That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really all I could think about. We could talk about for this time. I'm so happy that we were able to do this, even though the restrictions are not really that much fun anymore. But we see that here in our country, in Denmark, is that we're running out of patience, and it's we want to go back to a normal life, but it's good that we can have this. Yes. So it's no, I'm happy that we were able to actually virtually have this talk. It's I think it's interesting. I think that this is something I've really missed from our exhibitions, is having that time to debate and talk about what's actually happening in our market. Not necessarily thinking about a sale. I believe that if we make good enough cameras, these cameras will sell themselves in all respect. But having an understanding of what's happening in the market, those are the interesting talk for me, especially. And what can be done better for the future is even more fun.
Absolutely. No, it's been good fun. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, it's been nice. Thank you.
Okay, well, until we meet again, have a good one.
Exactly. We'll see you at the next trade show.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Bye, guys.